The series takes place in the future where there's a huge gap between the citizens' wealth and living standards. In this world, there's a very popular form of boxing called Megalo Boxing, which is popular amongst the rich and poor. However, the so-called Megalonia boxing tournaments are more or less only for the upper class citizens or participants with huge sponsorships. This is because this so-called boxing style requires you to wear something called gear, and each and every one of these participants have their own distinct or unique version of this gear, which gives them strength and speed advantages in comparison to fighters without. So you can say that the better gear you have, the bigger of an advantage you will have during your fights. Even though Megalo Boxing mostly are for the upper class, the lower class have found their own way to enjoy Megalo Boxing as well. And that is through underground Megalo Boxing, where the lower class citizens have created their homemade gear and fights for small prize pools. From the looks of it, the upper class are aware of these underground events, but they do not care. It often takes place in the slum and for the lower class citizens. Also, these so-called underground events are imposed of match fixing each and every game. This is where our protagonist comes into play, also called Junk Dog, who's fighting weekly in these underground matches and often gets beat up by the other fighters. So, Junk Dog has a true talent when it comes to boxing, and has sworn that he could win each and every one of these matches if it wasn't because of the match fixing. Junk Dog, who's later renamed to Joe, feels at some point that it has been going on for too long. He's tired of losing, tired of match fixing, and tired of being an underground dog with no real name to himself. So because of this, and despite his trainer's will, Joe decides to knock out the next guy he's in the cage with. Even though Joe and his trainer have committed a contract to the match fixers that Joe had to lose this fight. And because of this, Joe and his trainer ends up in a huge debt. To pay the match fixers back, Joe's trainer, also called Pops, makes a deal that if they somehow can get Joe into the Megalonia boxing tournament, for the upper class, they will promise that Joe will be amongst the best fighters and hereby make huge profits so they can pay back their debt. However, if this is going to work out for Joe and how he can manage to get up and fight in these so-called upper class Megalonia tournaments is something I'm going to leave you guys, the watchers, to go and see for yourself. Despite this normalized, straightforward story, there's something about the dynamics, the expression, and the animation style that just catches you and makes you want to stay just for a little longer. The animation looks like something from the early 2000s, but with no stall imagery. And the animation is quick-faced, but the drawing style has truly captured a more old-school approach. And yeah, the style, the music, the theme just captures you, and each and every time you're finished an episode, you're just craving for another one. Also, the protagonist, Joe, has this so-called coolness flair to him. Not like Sonic, but he is arrogant and cocky and never tries to show sign of weakness. But the thing about that just makes this character so great are the shifts between Joe being surrounded by other people versus when he is all alone. And when you finally see Joe being alone, he's often out strolling on his motorbike and being reckless. He crashes it a few times and receives a ton of unneeded bruises and scratches. But for me at least, I can't help thinking each time that he's out strolling that this is his only time he can show his true self. From the looks of it, him as a character to the other people within this universe, he comes out being very arrogant. But as soon as he's all alone, he's showing his true signs of weakness. His scarcity is that he wants to overcome but is scared and hereby often tries to neglect his true self and evidently speeding up on his motorbike and afterwards crashes each and every time. Also, early in the story we get this feeling that Joe doesn't really care about anything. He doesn't care about other people, neither himself. It's almost as he can't find a true purpose in life. Only that he loves boxing, but when it has to be match fixed each and every fight, even here he feels chained up and doesn't know what to do. So you can say that he is stuck in this continuous loop with no future inside. However, this is where our antagonist Yuri comes into play. Yuri is the total opposite from Joe. He is from the upper class, works for one of the most prestigious companies in all of Japan, and is a Megalo Boxing champion and has a so-called purpose in life. However, this purpose will change throughout the story and hereby create one of the, I would say, dopest classes between a protagonist and an antagonist I have ever seen, especially when it comes to the character development these two goes through in such a short amount of time. I believe there's 13 episodes with an average length of 20 minutes, and yet it feels like you have been following both of these two characters throughout their whole journey, throughout their whole childhood, from start to finish, even though you have only seen them in their current self and have no idea of how their life were before or how they fell in love with boxing. The ending is something you just have to go watch for yourself. It is everything you could have asked for in this series. It's non-glorified ending, and yet it's glorified but in an unexpected manner, which works out so great. This has easily become one of my top 10 anime of all times, and I really wish that you would go give it a watch, especially with season 2 coming out next month. However, to be honest, I'm not even sure if I wanna go watch season 2. The first season ends so perfectly that I don't want it to get ruined by a sequel. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and if you have watched Megalo Boxing, did you enjoy it? And of course, please support the writer called Chikara Sakuma. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Also, he has made a manga with 2 volumes. It has not been translated to English yet, but hopefully on the upcoming future. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. I sincerely hope you'll give Megalo Boxing a chance, and have a good one.
What the hell am I doing?
Kids of the lock and now my